Hello, I'm Cynthia Myers Morrison. I am a board member for Food Addiction Institute, and I am so grateful to have John Citeroni, a longtime friend of mine, to be here with me today to share his story, which is just a transformative story. So please, John, take it away.
Well, my name is John C. I always, and this is the way I always share. I'm a food addict. I weigh and measure free meals each day off the gray sheet. Write in name, call me my gracious sponsor, and absence is the most important thing in my life without exception today. So I just get some basics out right away. My current weight is probably about 178. Uh, I've lost My top weight was 490, so you can figure out the numbers. I got involved in 12-step programs in 1990, and I'm a big proponent of 12-step programs. But before I even get into that aspect, it's important for you to understand where I come from, why I am the way, why I got up to 490. So what can I say? The old saying, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, that's a good question. So here's my reality, my situation. I got morbid obesity in my family history. My grandma, which I never met her, she died of diabetes. They say. Well, if you're short, 5'2" and you weigh 350 pounds, did you die from diabetes or morbid obesity? That's the way they said it. And comes from my mom's side. We were from northern Italy. My father's from southern Italy. And
Where are
I,
they from again?
my my mom's side is from up in north. My mom's side is up north Italy, and my father's side is southern Italy. And they met over. My father was an immigrant. My mother was first generation, and I would say they met, but back in the day, there was no meeting. It was all planned, and that's a long, different world, and that's what they came from. And so, so here's the situation. Here I was. I have an aunt who was morbidly obese, and I had an uncle who was morbidly obese. Nothing to be blunt about it. They're not weren't in my category, but they were morbidly obese. They were like halfway between normal and halfway towards me, I guess. So it's in my origins. So my mom, she had the kids and all. And when I was born, the most important thing you got to realize, this little kid was born. I was a sick kid from day one. I mean, I had problems. I was a preemie baby. I had problems with my lungs in the beginning. It got me out there. And so here's my dilemma. I like to say, well, it wasn't for this childhood trauma, I'd be normal or something happened to me. Well, here's the reality of my situation. I don't remember this. My mom told me this. Here was this little kid throwing around on the floor, and we had this boxer named Brandy. He loved me, and he'd bite anyone that went near me. He really loved me, and he was a rough dog to deal with. And they used to feed him dog biscuits. And this little kid's crawling on the floor and stealing the dog's dog biscuits. And they thought all the adults thought it was rather funny. I don't remember that. I don't have that. It's too long ago. I don't remember that. What I do remember was um, my my mom used to, they had the baby food from back there. And who knows? Probably more sugar in the baby food than anything. And I love custard baby food, and she used to buy it for my little sister. And for me to get my hands on it was up in the cabinet, and how I had to get a little step ladder, crawl up on that, and then get on top of the dryer underneath it, and then I would steal my little sister's baby food. My mom said, "Where'd this go?" I said, "Oh, I don't know." Maybe the cat got up there. I give her some cock and bull story, and that's the truth. She had to hide everything from me from an early age, and that's just the way. That's why I remember how I lived. I remember when I was a little kid, when I was a little boy. I first time I went over to my next door neighbor, my best buddy, my first person I knew were next door neighbors, and I had dinner with his family. And all the other his brothers and sisters and the parents were all laughing. They never saw a kid like me eat like that. I just ate out of control. That's the way I was brought up, and that's my basic normal thing. I mean, it's just the way I flow. I drink water. I don't drink water like I will sit there. I drink it all at once. I gotta drink it all at once. I cannot eat anything normally. And I gotta finish. If you give me an 8-ounce cup of water, 12-ounce cup of water, a 30-ounce cup of water, I'm gonna drink it all. It's just the way I am. That's the way I live. That's the way I am. Plus, I was a sick little kid. Uh, I had when I was 6 years old. I had one leg shorter than the other. Remember the old days when you had those big inclifts? I had that, and they had to put me in a cast. They put me in a body cast for 6 months. So here I was. Let's say I had no availability to grab everything. I had to get fed. Guess what, folks? This fat little kid didn't lose any weight because my mom was a good Italian woman here. And what do you do with a sick kid? You feed the little kid. In fact, I remember when my oldest brother married and brought his wife home, and my mother asked him, "What can I make for you?" He said, "Oh, nothing." She says, "Well, how else am I going to show you love?" That's the way she does things, and that's the way we do it. No. So here I am. Then after I got the cast off, I had to go around in crutches for 4 years, and it just set everything up, and it just knocked me out of the sync with all my peers. Everything was different for me, and what I remember most about that time. So here I was I was starting to get off crutches, and my father was trying to teach me how to ride a bicycle. Well, the reality was I never had much balance. Back in the day, we used to have the roller skates. I always fall on my backside. I mean, I just never had it. And so I remember him trying that way. It just wasn't going well. And I just said, oh, well, I'm too fat to do this. And that set up my whole story for most of my life. Too, if I just had this weight off, I'd be fine. The big lie is that if you just lose the weight, everything was fine. I had a lot of other issues going on too. Besides that, so I got older, and back in grade school, I was always the fattest kid. And what happens was, it's not a fun thing to be morbidly obese in school. Society's not nice to you. I don't know how it is today, but boy, they were vicious to me. I mean, I always remember one time when here I am in my 20s, I'm walking, minding my own business. So, and these four women are behind me. They're making all kinds of comments. Doesn't this kid have any? Does a guy have any pride? How can he look like that? And I felt like turning around, saying to them, "You think I like being this? You really think? You really think you? I was so tempted to be honest. You think I really like being this way? If I had the guts, I'd get rid of myself. But so that was a lot of story about my personal. Now I'll give you some information about. I'll start about the things I've done. I just didn't come to 12-step program. We do other ways of doing this. The first thing was, oh, one more backstory. When I had crutches, the surgeon, I helped did a procedure in my hip. He said, John, you got to lose weight, and I'm going to put you with the people the kids that go into special buses, the retarded ones. And I says, as I said, it was a different world back then, folks, not like today. And that was like the kiss of death. I lost a little, but it didn't work. The first diet program, and it's kind of funny. I really didn't. I mean, it was just a different era. I mean, I didn't have any counselors back in grade school. I mean, the nurse used to say to me, "Well, you just eat one plate of spaghettis or stuff like that." They had no clue what was going on with me, and so that's the way I was brought up, and that's the way it was. The first diet I did, real diet, was those caramel candy things, and I used to like what they were good for is binging them. They never worked for me. So I went to the doctor. He gave me this 1,200 calorie. Just laughed, but I was able to pull off that thing, the 1,200 calories. I went to 375 to 215 because I got into smoking. Instead of eating, and most of my food was at nighttime. I was like a normal person. I became a werewolf at night. I just couldn't stop. And believe it or not, I was able to stop because I smoked cigarettes. I used to smoke as many as 3 packs a day, and I would chain smoke them, and I was able to pull it off for a while. Then what happened one fine day is I realized how disgusting a habit this was. My hands were all yellow, my teeth were all yellow, my room was yellow, and it smelled horrible. And I said to myself, "This is disgusting. I gotta stop it." And so what happens is when you say you're going to stop it, you're going to cut down to 1 pack a day. Well, that 1 pack a day I inhaled because that was I was only have 1 pack, so that made it 3. So one fine day, enough. I'm doing this cold turkey. Uh, First day was tough. I had the cravings. The second day was rough. After that, it was over with. I had no problem. Let me tell you something today. I haven't had cigarettes well over 40 years. I have no desire to smoke. Quite frankly, I find the habit disgusting. It doesn't turn me on. If you go to a store and they have all the fast food cigarettes up there, I don't get excited, fantasy. I have zero interest in it. But the point is, that's not my addiction. My whole addiction was on food. That's where I come from. My Italian. We don't got alcohol to my family. We got food. That's me to the T. And so what happened was naturally I went back up and put on more weight. Then from that, let me see what else I did. Oh, Optifast. I should go. I've done other things. Optifast. I was their superstar. They estimated my weight at 490. Uh, Catch this. Their scale. When I came in, they had the fancy, not as doctor scales, but they were electronic too, and they were real fancy. And they went up to I think 450. They couldn't weigh me on that because I was too big for it. So they kept on pressuring me to go to a butcher shop because they had bigger scales. And for a reason, I just did it. And so they put me the butcher on a thing, and that's how they figured out. I was 465 on the scale. When they get back, they figure, well, you were doing this long. They come up with a calculation. That's what they said I started. So I did OptiFast. In a year's time, I went down to 199. I was their superstar. They never saw anything like this. If they're going to do an ad, they'd probably want to use me, which I wouldn't mind if I get paid for it. You know how it goes. But it was incredible. That crazy plan where you basically eat just what I used to do. Their shakes, and I put in diet soda, and I used to eat that, and I take 5 of them a day they give me. Believe it or not, that crap, I get off on that. I was happy with it. I was ready to spend the rest of my life on this. You know what I mean? And I remember one time I had to eat normal because I was out of town, and I was able to do that and get back on track, which was great. Well, what happened was, yeah, by the way, they took a cardiogram with me every week. I had to go to a doctor every week. They would check me, make sure I was all right. I guess I was all right. But the thing was, I took all this weight off, and you're getting all kinds of positive feedback off of it. The reality is, no one really understand me, how bad I felt. I still felt like nothing. I felt worthless. So it's I feel when you see somebody that's been morbidly obese or like, you know, they got other things going on. And if they don't have other things from their past, just living everyday life, you got stuff. Just dealing with navigating life every day does things to you. So here I was. Oh, they had a therapy class. First time I ever looked at therapy. And they said for the people who had real problems. I think people need more, and I was one of them, I guess. Very interesting. First time in my life I ever got honest because they would give me all kinds of positive feedback. And I told them, you don't realize how bad I feel, how bad I feel. And I was just honest. First time in my life I was ever honest. So I did an opta fast. They closed down, and you know, so I had to eat normal. I had no clue what to do with food. I was petrified. I didn't have a diet. I just, you know, basically, you know what I did? I ate one meal a day at dinner, but that was when I'm the worst. I didn't have to eat during the day, and I said, why? You know, instead of eating 3 meals, I'm there saying if I don't feel that hungry, I'm able to pull it off. I just put it all on dinner. I had a routine. I walked every night 8 miles. On the weekend, I walked 16 miles every day. Plus, I was working in my father's construction. So I was able to maintain it for a bit. A couple of times I started putting on weight, 20 pounds. When that happened, I did slim fast. I was, as I said, for a while, but little by little, it all fell apart on me, and I put everything back. And I remember one time, the therapist when we were closing, he said, "Something if you ever get back off track, you know, we'll see. Give me a call, and give you a hand. We'll see we can help you out." And I said, "Well, if that happens, I would go to OA because that's a 12 therapist group, and
12 step.
yeah, 12 step." And I said to her, as I said to people, I believed in OA because dear Abby said it was good. She proponed it. And I said, you know, if dear Abby said something's good, it's good. It's legit. So I went there. So before I went, but you know, there was a meeting in Northeast Philly around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It was at a library. So I go there, and it was in the dead of winter. It was cold, and I'm sweating like a pig in that car because I'm so upset about me going in there and dealing with people. I couldn't. At that point, I got so isolated in my life. I was barely the only thing the difference between me and the people in the mental ward was I worked. I worked in my father's business, and my father was old. I did a lot of things that he couldn't do. I was able. You would have laughed. I mean, anyone would laugh. Here I am. This guy's well over 450. I'm going up and down scaffolds and bringing material up there and getting this work done. And I had people watch me and good entertainment. They says, "I can't believe you're able to do that, but God bless you." I was able to do that, but I got older. When I got older, my body broke down. I mean, if I tell you, for example, I come home at night and you know after binging, I go upstairs, you know, and what happened was when I stopped walking around, my ankles really got sore from handling all that weight all day. Basically, I had to crawl around to get around. I was so much pain, and but by the way, it never stopped me from falling down the steps and grabbing some food in the middle of the night. It's incredible. Nothing's going to stop me from my addiction.
How old
And
were you then, John?
my 30s.
30s.
Yeah. So I mean, I went to college, got a college education. I had all opportunities going for me. I couldn't deal with it. I just couldn't deal with life on its terms. I remember I went into my brother. I had a degree in accounting. My brother was a professional. He had everything set up for me. He had a buddy that worked for the IRS. I could have got a job. I went in there, and the lady receptionist, she looked at me with total contempt. I just couldn't deal with it. I walked away, and so I pissed the opportunity away. What can I say? Uh, but at any rate, what, what was that? What
Had
was
you
that?
gone to college and
Yeah, I pissed that
had
away.
opportunities?
Yeah, I lost opportunities. And I basically, here I was with my father's business. I was his helper. We had a construction business going. And the reality was, my father's from the old country. He came over. His uncle screwed him. Back in the day, the old, it's all about the tight Italian family. It's another myth going on there. Somebody would take advantage of it. He grew up. He came over as a real angry man. He took a lot of the anger off me. He treated me poorly all my life. Uh, Basically, the only people, I'll be blunt about this, that would work for him were black men, but black men that were on parole that needed a job. That's the only ones that are going to work for him because he wasn't the best guy to work for. And so that went on. And what happened was, so okay, after that, I put the weight back on after Gracie. So here I am. I went, I was about ready to go back to OptiFast because it worked for me. Don't ask me why. It's a miracle from God. One fine day, I go on a yellow page. Back in the day, yellow page was a great way to find out things. You go on yellow pages now, you can't even find it, or there's all different types of things. So I called up this weight. I think it looks on a weight control, whatever it was, and I called up this number in Center City, Philly. And I was talking to this lady, and I was telling her, I was going to go back to OptiFast. And for whatever reason, she told me, John, OptiFast doesn't work. And I said, I know it don't work. And she said, John, I'm a 12-step therapist. I go to 12-step program. Why don't you stop in and stop over and we'll see if I can help you out. And for whatever reason, I said yes. Most important decision of my life. Um, Her name was Amy. It's so long I forget her name, but that woman was the first person that started my recovery, and maybe she's the most important person. If she was on, if she, she's a professional, if she was around here, I'd have to say I give her more credit than anyone. So I went to her, and the most important thing she said to me when I went to her, she says, "Look, if you're willing to work, I'm going to ask you to do things. If you do these things, it will work. But if you're not going to be honest with me, you're not willing to do anything, you're wasting your time, your money, and my time." Can you imagine today someone saying, telling you, I mean, they probably half the country look at you if you're crazy. Well, that's money. That's all you care for. I mean, you should care for. But that's what happened. So here I was with her. But something happened when I said yes. Something happened. It's almost like I surrendered. I was so desperate that I was willing to do anything. I'd have the guts to kill myself. My brother died from brain cancer, and I remember him taking me to the doctor's office. He pointed out, he said, John, I'm not going to be around much longer. We went together. You really need to start taking care of yourself because you're going to have to take care of your parents. No one else is. I mean, so I went to her. And back in the day, you had all the eating disorder clinics. She was affiliated with a place for us. if you remember that one. She was the biggest one in my area was Glen Bay. I mean, it was super huge. Well, I was at the time when right then Blue Cross uh, decided not to cover that. So I couldn't go for a place or else. Maybe you from Glen Bay, but she was upset with Glen Bay because the clients she sent to them, they were stealing them all from giving them to their own firm. She resented that. And but then she, but what happened was, I just want to tell you something. I was willing to go a place for us 30 days, total out of my character. My father was about ready to disown me altogether because he wanted me to stay home and take care of him. Everything. I mean, I just did it. I was, but what happened was it fell apart. After that fell apart because the place for us couldn't cover insurance. I said, John, I'll tell you what, we'll have our own therapy room in here, and I'll work with you. We'll see if we can get something done. Now you're gonna realize I didn't really have the food plan, but the insanity of food ended that day. I wasn't going as I was. I wasn't eating normal, but I wasn't. I wasn't. The insanity at 19 ended that day. So what happened was, okay, John, here's an OA schedule. You got to commit to 3 meetings. Just to tell you how the 3 meetings I got to them. I like one meeting I wouldn't go to because it was around, it was in a Y, and there's all kinds of kids there. I go nowhere with kids because they always laughed at me, made jokes. Another one was big meeting. I didn't want to go there either because they made you come up front and read literature. I was afraid they would start laughing at me because that was my experience back in the day. But anyway, I finally worked out 3 meetings with her. With she said didn't have a sponsor at one. I did have a sponsor there. I was able to handle her because I told her I couldn't find any men sponsors. There were only women sponsors, and you don't want me to have a woman sponsor. And she sort of went with that to a little bit. So what happened there? How I got my first sponsor? This guy, I call him a young kid who didn't look like he had a food problem at all. He'd be at all the meetings, and he gave me a card with an 800 number for. And I was like, I got his number. He's a salesman for these clinics. He sells us all us fat people to get us into the clinics so he can make money. That's what I figured. And my trooper said anytime someone was nice to me, I always said there's hidden agenda because why would you be nice to me? It's not normal. So anyway, here I was, a lady, my early recovery. I'm here, and I went to her meeting on a Friday night, and I was about ready to leave because the speaker didn't show up. And she asked me to please stay. I want you to hear this guy. He lost well over 100 pounds. So I'm sitting there in my mind, listen, guess who comes in? This guy. He was morbidly obese at one time too. And we started. And he said his story, and we started to talk. And he asked me, "Well, how come you never call me, John?" And he said to me, "I said, oh, I lost your number." He looked at me and said, "You're full of shit. You threw it away." Actually, became my first sponsor. So here I was. When I started, my first food plan was real food plan was Acorn. Uh, that's the one from Glen Bay, where he went to Glen Bay.
And you were
And
how old at that time?
what?
How old?
Let me see. Early 40s. So here I am, early 40s. And the thing, Acorn. The main difference between Acorn and Gracie, I feel, is Acorn you get grains. Uh, you get more food too. But if you're doing that right, you got to weigh and measure without exception. Sugar's got to be fifth or less. Yeah, if you go to a restaurant, you're going to ask a whole bunch of questions. And I've walked out of restaurants because I figured I couldn't do it. I did all, by myself and I brought my cups and scales. I always weighed and measured. So I'm saying it's not like Acorn, some easy food program. Regular people in OA hate acorn, but people who do gray sheet, we're on the bottom of the ladder. Then comes acorn. I mean, we're crazy. So and I did that for 12 years with bait, and I took the practice all the way. I got more food. I never got down this low in there, but I was fine where it's at. So then I broke. I started. What happened was the rehabs closed. When the rehabs closed, little by little, they died out, and they were funneling so many people in Hal in my area. I've heard how what they say they do, but in how in our area, we always weighed and measured without exception. We didn't have where we didn't eat no bread or anything. We had a strong program. What happened was they when that closed, people stopped dropping out, and I don't even know if there's a Hal area in the tri-state area right now. I mean, that's how So there might be, but I'm not aware of it. So what happened was getting different sponsors and sponsors. I started getting OA sponsors, regular OA sponsors, and they never realized that I'm full of shit. I'm a snake. They didn't realize when I was doing things. Just to give you an example, I got the flu once. Oh, I got a cold once, and I called my sponsor and I said, "Can I have soup?" I wanted, but I asked him, "What are you going to have?" Split peas. And I said, "Yeah." He flipped because I want to change my things around. He said, "Go ahead." Yeah, it was. It had nothing to do with me sick. I haven't had split peas in so many years. I said, "Why not get it?" And when I did that, I broke my absence. It just started the whole thing. That little deception. That's why they say it's important. Important for this is, by the way, folks. I don't know where you're coming from, and I'm not saying that you got to do what I got to do. I'm just telling you this is my story, and uh, this is my story. Hold on for a second. Telemarketer, I know who you are. Let me close this. So this is my truth. This is my story, and I'm not saying you have to be you have to be as extreme as I am, but this is what I got to do to myself. And I had people call me up. Well, you don't understand, John. I'm over 400 pounds. You don't understand, John. I'm 70 years old. That's all a bunch of bullshit. There is recovery out there, and you just got to be willing to do what you got to do. If, if you might have to give up all sorts of things out there. But is it worth? I mean, you have to look. Is it worth it to you? Not. I mean, you know, I still, I buy. I usually buy. I start my day after I eat my breakfast. I go to the local 7-Eleven. I buy a cup of coffee. I put. I put some stevia, maybe some sweeteners in it, and that's it. What's in these stores? There's sweet stuff all over the left and right. You're not going to see healthy stuff, and most of the times I ignore it. It's not part of my deal. I like coffee. I'm allowed to have it in my fellowship, so why not? So I have my coffee and I'll leave. But I'm not going to go out and get something else. So I mean, it's a decision I make. If I go, my reality is, and I can't speak for anyone else but myself. If I go over there and get a piece of sugar at this place, it's just, what the reality is? There's not enough sugar in this place to stop. I can't eat normal. I have to accept that thing, what I am. As I told my sister once, um, they gave me when I retired, uh, they gave me a bowl of a basket of fruit, which they thought was healthy. Well, in that basket there was grapes. This is not on my plan. And you know darn well I ate everything. I said relapse. That's what I did. Now just one time I was talking to my cousin. He made a strawberry cake like my mom made. He knew how to make it. My mom made my favorite dessert. He said, "Why don't you have a piece?" I said, I'll pass." So I said to my sister, I said, "Barbara, why don't you get yourself a piece? You're not like me. If I could eat that, I'll be out. I'll be out and things." She looked at me and said, "Are you nuts, John?" She's gluten free. She says, "I haven't had that stuff in years. If I eat that stuff, I might get real sick because I haven't had it so long." And she just passed it. Can you imagine someone saying that yourself after all my life and saying to myself that it would ever be a struggle? And I'm just saying, this stuff's going to kill me. Why would I want to kill myself? Why would I take arsenic? It makes no sense. But, it's just a difference. And I remember they gave me this real used kit. I had to carry for my car. And so she has this big case of her, big piece of it. I'm looking at her. This big cake. I said, "What are you going to do with this, Barbara?" "I might slice a couple pieces and put them in the refrigerator. Most of it's going to get frozen. I'll slice it down. It'll eventually, get, I'll eventually eat it all." I'm just saying to myself, if I brought that home, I don't know if I wouldn't finish it before the night's out. And it's like, I remember one time I took her out, and it's funny how they set these things out in these farmer markets. They have the Amish people there. And basically, the Amish people, you get to pass the bathroom there. You got to go past that. And, you know, they have everything that's destiny there. And I tell my sister, "Oh, Barbara, if you want to get something there, get it." She looked at me and she's, "John, my problem," I said, "Don't you?" I mean, they got some really, the post has some great candy here. She just looked at me and said, "John, you nuts?" No, here's what she said to me. She said, "John, I got nothing wrong problem with buying candy. My problem is I'll eat a piece, then I'll forget the rest, and it'll become stale." I'm laughing. I says, "You're my sister?" And I was going to say, "What the heck's wrong with stale candy? I mean, can candy ever get stale? I don't know what the thing is." And, but that's where it comes. My recovery has changed over the years. This is one story. I always hated the holidays at work. They bring all their stuff and they want you to eat their stuff. And so finally, they were beating me down, and they asked me, "Oh, you got to take some of this stuff home." I basically put two two containers of donuts, big things, and I says to myself, "I'm going to give it to the kids," because I was around and it was like at home. I kept it in the back of my car. But guess what happened? I forgot about it. I forgot about it, John said. And I'm looking at this. Oh gosh, it's because I had to go in the trunk for weeks. I said, "Oh God, it's probably frozen stiff. It's the dead of winter." And so I went in there. I opened up my trunk and I looked at this. I got those two boxes and I threw it. I threw it away. We had the what do you call it, big things outside. So like I couldn't get back in there and get it for myself if I wanted to. I just threw it away. And I'm there saying, I just laughed. I said, frozen sugar? That's going to stop me? Stale sugar? That's going to stop me? No, I love that stuff. But I couldn't bring it to the kids, and I just got rid of it. When I first came into Gray Sheet, that's the way I was with sugar. By the way, just tell you with Gray Sheet, my first sponsor, and this is important for a person like me. The most important thing my first sponsor said, "John, we don't eat that in Gray Sheet. No, you can't have it." See, you folks over here can teach me how to be disciplined, how to do a lot of things, but you can't tell me how to be sloppy. You can't tell me how to binge. I got a PhD. And I'm the person. Don't turn around. Don't turn around and tell me, just eat normal. Don't turn around and tell me about. Tell me, just have one or that stuff. It's not happening, folks. I am what I am. I'm an extreme person. This is the only way I'm able to pull this off. Weighing and measuring weighing and measuring is not a choice. If I don't do this, it's not going to work because I know the way my mind operates. Of course, I've been doing this a long time. I know what 4 ounces of protein is. But my problem is, I look at the 4 ounces. I said this. All of a sudden, that 4 ounces was 2 ounces. Then I got to make up for it, or I'll do that next day and the whole following day. Well, I'm going to cut myself. I got to make up for it this next day, and it goes down the tubes that quick for me. I can't do it. So that's where I'm from, and the fact that I got to discipline, the fact that I have a sponsor and I surrendered my food. That's why I'm still around today, folks. Most of the other people I know, came guys or most big. And by the way, anyone out there says I'm an exception. I know other guys in my fellowship that done the same thing. We have a men's meeting. I'll bet you about 10 men over here that were in the high 300s, and they maintain it for a while. So it does work for extreme people, but it works for everyone, the truth be said. I mean, you have to decide. You just got to make a decision if you're willing to surrender. And I'm not saying you got to do what I do, folks. I mean, whoever you're out there, I look at things. Whatever you do that is going to give you relief from this addiction, I recommend that. I mean, most important. I'll give you an example. When I was in relapse in LA, I wasn't in a relapse. I was still absent, but I was shaky. And I was talking to this lady from Food Addicts Anonymous, and they had a meeting. I was asking her about it, and she started asking me questions about how much weight I lost, how long I've been absent. And she said to me, John, why would you come to my fellowship? Seriously, why would you jeopardize your absence? It work. What you're doing is work for you. Stay where you're at, and that to me is an example of recovery. Doesn't try to attack what you do or try to get you over on their side. See something that's working for you, that's what you just stick with. Because I'm always looking for an easier, softer way. I'm looking for something else to do where I can get a little bit more of food or something different. That's the way I flow. So, I mean, I'm always looking for an alternative here. Fortunately, I came back to Gray Sheet after I got in relapse and that because you get in relapse, no matter what your food program. Because I believe the reason why I'm absent today is God's grace. Um, if you were to ask me, well, I'm an atheist, John. You believe in God? Prove it to me. I don't buy it. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Look, I can tell you my life story. I'm still alive today. I've done when I was in relapse. What do you think I do in the OA room? What do you think I just did? Well, it's Monday night. I'm going out and partying, or Saturday night. I fought the darn thing every day. I went to all kinds of different therapists. I went to different groups. I did a 5-day intensive in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We drove up together, me and 8 women. I was the token guy there. And they had an anger work. They had an anger group working out their anger. And guess what the ladies were angry about? Their husbands, their boyfriends. And guess who was a surrogate that played the how to hear this stuff? Me. But I did it. I was desperate. And what I remember, it's 5 days I was absent. I came home. I'd eat dinner. I went out to eat dinner. And what happened was, they had a great dessert, free dessert. One of my favorites. But I couldn't do it. I had to let it go. And I was so pissed off. So what I did after I got back home, I thought about it. So I went to Wawa and I ate all these different things similar to that to try to make up for it. 5 days down the tubes, that quick. So, so The only thing that makes sense to me is it's God's grace. He gave me the willingness to do this. That's the only reason why I'm here. And if you're going to say, "Oh, I got discipline," I got zero discipline. I got zero discipline. And if you want to say it's your food program, oh yeah, food program has a lot to do with it. But I went relapse from acorn. I went and relapse from reishi. So that in itself's not going to do it. Now, okay, enough of the food. I want to tell you what happens when what I see. You know, if you some people say, "Oh, it's a spiritual," you'll say, "Well, just work the steps and pray to your higher power." No, for people like me, you gotta put you have to deal with your food. We're not alcoholics here. I don't know anyone that drinks in moderation. It's considered can do that. AA. There might be. I mean, I don't know if there's anyone a cigarette smoker that says has a half a pack a day or a couple cigarettes a day. I'm not certain. It could be, but I don't buy it. So I have to deal with the food first. Okay, I dealt with the food. You go to a 12-step meeting, you'll see this way. If you're able to finally put the food down, here's what happens. Do I see? You'll see old timers. Not to call Cindy MM an old timer, but a young timer like Cindy MM and and here, and you'll listen to them because you want to listen. You want to see the people who have pulled it off for a long time. Because when I first got absent back in the day in LA, I was terrified. I didn't know why I was abstinent, but I was. It just stopped, and then you start going to different meetings. They start talking about the first step, second step, and third. They start talking about the steps, and you see what people are doing, and you say, "Well, maybe I should be doing it." That's how it worked for me. I came in from the how rooms, and they had the how questions, which I done more how questions than anyone because I found where they had a different list of questions I used to do it. And if you're going to do that questions, they ask you in how. You got to get a big book. You got to get a lot of AA literature. And those stories about those guys in AA, I forget their name. The guy that suddenly decide if he put a little liquor with his milk and eat his sandwich, he'd be all right. That's me. That's me to a T. I've done that dance. I mean, give you an example. I was working on the road and Dairy Queen. I love Dairy. That's one of my all-time favorite places to go to. I don't really go to. And you go down the shore, they're all over the place. And they were open. And I was coming home from Atlantic City. And when I put Dairy Queen in. There's one over there. I go to drive over this Dairy Queen. No, I'm not doing that today. So I was zigzagging back, avoiding the Dairy Queens. And I was feeling so self-confident in myself. So I got home. I kept my absence. So I went to the Franklin Mills. If you're from my area, you know who they are. And they had a coffee shop there. I said, you know what? I'll get a little coffee. Well, you know what I did with that coffee? I put all that junk in it. And here I am, and I started laughing after I inhaled this. Well, you're just like the guy in the big book. You put a little sugar he put a little sugar in his milk, and he put a little sugar in his coffee. Then after that, I went down that quick. That quick. So that's it. But let's talk a little bit about other things in the food because you got to deal with it because I guess some people can do without doing some kind of step work or therapy work. I did a lot of stuff in therapy, but I sort of got tired up because I think I went as far as I was willing to go in therapy. To be honest with you. And I don't know if any therapists will be looking at this. I guess you are. But I will say something to you. If you tell someone in 12 steps, it's involved in 12 steps, that your problem with 12 steps is you don't graduate from it. I don't consider you you're not on my high list of therapists because you ain't graduating from this stuff. You don't get fixed. All you get is a retrieve here. So that means if your food ain't gonna work, but you also gotta watch how you deal with people. You gotta change something. Food's important, but you got other things you got to change. And the most important thing, why I'm here today, why I came to Gray Sheep, is back in the day, the OA has its own literature, their own 12 steps. They got one that's called the 4-step. They ask all kinds of really embarrassing questions. I mean, before you do that mixed question, about your sex life, to have kids, you have sex with kids, all kinds of stuff. And so I did a 4-step in the OA meetings. I wrote it in there. And I'd go in place and I'd write it down. Someone looked on the money. I hide it. I was, my first 4-step was the most important 4-step, the most important thing I did in my 12-step recovery. Because I wrote about every dirty little secret that I felt shame. Shame was a big part of my life. I got totally honest when I asked those questions. So I did this. The trouble with doing a 4-step, no one gets it. But the trouble after that, it's the 5th step. I don't want to tell anyone. My sponsor was asking me, well, are you going to give me your 5th step? I said, no. So I was figuring I was going to give it to my priest because I figured he'd kick me out of the church. So I gave it to my therapist. So I came one fine day. I had it in an envelope. I had it, the thing was, it was like the glow in all his clothes. I gave it to her. She turned around and threw it at me. He said, oh, well, that's not the way it's done. When you give a step, you got to read it to me. I tore it up and read it. I was 100% honest with this stuff. I even told her the truth. She was an attractive woman. She liked to wear short skirts. I told her I fantasized about her. I was, because I was ashamed about that. And I told her everything. And she just laughed. She said, well, I guess I can't wear, I guess I'm going to watch what I wear now. But anyway, I did it. And what the 4-step did to me, it opened me up. It gave me the first time to start being honest with people, tell you how I felt things. To be really honest at meetings where I'm coming from. And that led to everything. I wouldn't be here today doing this. It led to me when I got in the Gray Sheep. I did a real intensive 12-step with the old timer back in the day. The first 100. They had all this reading I had to do, and you highlight it, and you hide up, and you had to look up words. I had to write every night for an hour. A person like me, that's painful. I hate to write, but I did it. I did it because I surrendered. And when I did my 5th step with him, it was so much easier because I already did a lot of stuff, and it opened me up. I mean, just to get you how out of touch I was with thing. I had a sponsor in the OA said to me, John, how about resentments? Because that's part of the 4th step. And I told him I didn't have any resentments. Are you sure, John? No. You know what I found out after all these years? My problem is I have resentments about everything. Everyone. If I knew you, I have resentments against you. So my question to you is, if that's your life, how can you tell what a resentment is? Because that's my normal state. So I had to learn like it. I mean, I was going for everyone. I had to go for every in my life. And I finally looked at my mailman, hell of a nice guy. But guess what? There's one thing I had a problem with. When I came home from work, I expected the mail to be delivered. Because that means I had to come out again and get it. And I was pissed at him because we were his last stop. So if I knew you, I had resentments. So, I mean, none of, as I said, but none of this would happen without putting the food there. But I did a lot of things. I made a lot of amends. That guy, I was talking about this guy yesterday because I was talking to my sponsor before I came on here. I had this good buddy and I had in OA. My first sponsee, little did I know, his son was my sponsor. I never knew this. I used to hang out with him. We used to do inappropriate things together back in the day, and we were absent and all that. Well, he did something. He was a used cars dealer, a used cars dealer. What they say about used cars dealer is, I hate to say this, folks. If anyone's listening, I'm sorry, but whatever they say about used car dealer, it's true. Because I know a bunch of them in the 12-step program. I wouldn't trust them as far as I go from. So he said, John, I broke my transmission. My transmission blew up. He said, go to my guy. Tell him I'm your uncle. He'll take good care of you. Let me tell you something. I get screwed so bad. I never got screwed this bad by anyone else. And I knew it when I went in this shop. I said, it didn't look professional. But I figured Bob would take care of it. Well, he took care of me. After that, I did character assassination. I was attacking him in all different things. And I went through the 12 step. And when I went through the second conflagration, I looked at my amends. It was, he was up top. He's probably up top of the people I thought I had to leave in amends. I talked to him. I said, Bob, I need to talk to you. He said, sure. Can I come? So I shocked him. I knocked on his door. I came down and sat next to him and talked to him. He said, oh, John, I didn't think you were going to come over to do this. But I said I had to. And I apologized for what I did. But also, I didn't say, well, you screwed me and you did this to me, Bob. I didn't say that. I just apologized for mine. I told him I had no right doing what I did. And it says in the big book about praying for other people. Believe it or not, if you hate someone, if you pray for them, it does get better. So I did that. I made a lot of amends to a lot of people. I wouldn't do these without where I'm at today. I try to avoid doing things that are inappropriate. Not always successful, but I mean, I was at a Walmart store. It's a couple of years ago, and I wanted to buy a lottery ticket. No one could help me, and I gave this woman customer service. I gave her a lot of grief, and I was very inappropriate with her. I walked out of the store, and I thought about it. The next day, I saw her there, and I came up to her, and I apologized to her. I said, I had no right to talk in this way. And she looked at me. She just, I said, I'm sure you remember me. She said, yes, I do. But that's part of it. So I have to, so I'm a lot better. If I keep my mouth shut, I open up my big mouth and process something and just pause, I'm usually avoiding most problems. But I got to be real careful how I behave today to avoid this stuff, because I don't want, because it's a, I got to be more than just absent. Because if I start, if I'm not going to change at all and just work on my plan, I don't know if I'm going to stay here. I mean, I'm looking at all the old time. What people tell me, you got to work, you got to increase your spiritual life, and that, if you've been through the big book, there's ways they show you black and white. It's not abstract. The black and white is how you're supposed to behave yourself. If you do something inappropriate, you have to make amends. You have to take inventory. I do that. I don't do it the best as everyone, but I do it. And so, I mean, that's all part of my recovery. If I don't talk about that, I'm giving you an idea that it's more than if you're an addict, it's more than food. It's more than liquor. You have to do some personal work in your personal life, but it does work. So I don't know. Oh gosh, I've been here a long. I think I've been on this for over an hour now. Okay, well I'm done. Oh,
John, that's
hold on.
fabulous.
Oh, hold on. I said I was going to share.
Oh, yes, please.
You know what's the most important
You
thing?
have to say what these are, John.
These are my work pants. Take a look at this. I don't know if it shows up. You see this is where
Hold it up a little higher. Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Show you over here inside.
Okay.
This is a size 60 work pants.
60.
I got this at the Army Navy store in Northeast Philadelphia. And if I fell, as long as I could fit in the 60 pants, I was all right. Talk about denial. Now I had this ripped out this way to increase the size. Well, so this is not, believe it or not, folks, this is not as messed up as I had this way. Like I always had these at the end ripped up, and I was sewing them.
Hold it up a little higher.
This is all right, but if you notice over here, down here,
Uh-huh.
I'd have them ripped down. I had to sew them many times, and believe it or not, actually, as my pants go, this is not bad. You know, I have the regular fins, but I used to have these ripped out. You could see the zipper afterwards.
Uh-huh.
And I was able to fit in them.
Could you hold them up so we can see all the way across? Oh, yes. Covers up the entire screen.
Well,
And what size do you wear now, John?
36.
That's
Well,
a significant difference.
but let me tell you the truth about these size 6. My sister got married, and I had to buy a tailor-made pair of pants. Pants. And you know what they size pants they put me in? A 66.
66.
I couldn't believe it. I was blown out. I blew my mind. I didn't think I was that big, but that's the reality. And there was a store, probably a long gone, Tory's men's store in South Philly. They actually had pants at the size 70. So the highest pants that I ever had was 68 inches. So,
68.
so I'm just, so I mean, I come from big numbers, folks. What can I say?
And what's the length, the leg length?
Oh, I probably 30.
30. Oh, John, it's such a pleasure to hear the transformation, to hear the stories. Well, is there something that if you were to tell your younger self someplace along the way that you wished you had, what wisdom you have now, that you could have told that younger self, what would you have said?
Oh, I would have told him back in the day. I don't know what was back in the day, but years ago, because Gracie was the food program at the beginning. And then there was people I know that came in the 70s. If I would have came in when I was 20 or 25, I would encourage it. Even if he doesn't like it, just stick in there. Because if I was my life, there's a lot of trauma between 20 and 40. A lot of trauma. Maybe I could avoid it some or handle something better. So that's what I would tell him.
Just
So
stay.
my fantasy's always been to get a 20-year-old guy, morbidly obese, to do great, to follow me. I haven't had much success, but you know, but young people usually they don't come until at the very end. I think that's what I feel, at least in our fellowship. So that's what I would tell them. I try to coach them to go. I wouldn't tell them to go. I just tell them to go to a 12-step food addiction program. It's if you just do it and see what happens.
Well, your story is certainly one that's one of those miracle stories, and it always pleases me to hear you and see you and to know the transformation that has come in your life. So thank you for sharing it. And I believe that other people who come to this Food Addiction Institute YouTube and see you, hear you, that they will hear the message. They will hear the message, and I do hope that. So thank you for sharing with us today. And for those of you that are new to Food Addiction Institute, there are other YouTubes that are available. Please take advantage of listening to them. There's a lot of information on the Food Addiction Institute website and a starter booklet for those of you that want to just put your toe in and see what happens. But as John has said, a 12-step program offers extraordinary support for a food addict or a person who's struggling with food. And we call it food, but many of those things that we've eaten that we called food were really substances. And as John has said, with cigarettes and alcohol, other addictions, there's not just having a little bit. It's not, moderation is not the name of the game. So this abstinence from their trigger foods and behaviors really does work. And John is a wonderful example of that. So John Citeroni, thank you so much for sharing. And John C., as you are known in the rooms, and thank you very much. I so appreciate your doing this. Thank you.